why Ohio State wins in this game. Well, I want to start off with this one right now because I think this is something where these teams are going to converge in Atlanta. And just right off the bat, like I'll just say this, I think Ohio State has the talent advantage. Now we'll get into, the Notre Dame side of things, but I think Ohio State has the talent advantage. And I think with Notre Dame's two injuries, two guys they're not going to have along the offensive line in this game because they've gotten injured during the playoffs, it really gives a leg up to this front seven. And Jim Knowles has done a complete revitalization job of Ohio State's defense, a remake, whatever you want to call it, in terms of the time span. I believe this is his third season in Columbus. He's done a fantastic job, changed the identity of what Ohio State has been. And I think it's just been this team that, hey, we know they can air it out, but could they just get that one stop? Well, they're not, and you talked about a lot of the numbers, they're not just getting one stop, they're stopping you, and you can't do a lot. So, you bring in the aspect of Riley Leonard in this whole thing. Riley Leonard's not the most Riley Leonard's I don't want to clip here. Riley Leonard's not the most he doesn't strike fear into you as an opponent. I would argue he is dynamic in his ability to just create plays. Not in sense like he's going to run a 4-4 past you or anything like that, but but his ability to play make is something that if you kind of let that avalanche get going, you can't stop it. So Ohio State, to me, you got to control that. You got to get pressure. He will throw the ball and put it in harm's way if you do that. We saw that kind of in the Penn State game at times. Like when they got pressure, that can happen. The next part of this is, and you talk about it, Ohio State Chip Kelly has to find a way, and this is probably the biggest thing. If Ohio State does this, they win the football game. You got to get Jeremiah Smith the ball early and often. You have to establish that connection with Will Howard, because I think that could start to put a Notre Dame defense that is very, very good on its heels a little bit, to where now, you can't just cut off one side of the field, because obviously you have talent everywhere. But now if that gets going early and often, then it's, okay, we've got to watch out for him. We've got to watch out for the other two receivers. Oh, don't forget about the two, really talented backs they got in the backfield. It becomes really a mind game in the eyes of, Notre Dame's defensive staff and Marcus Freeman, to where it's
I'm going to go the other way.
It's pick your poison. It could be.
I'm actually going to go the other way. I think Ohio State has to run the ball.
That's fair.
Because Notre Dame's front seven has been so good in these playoffs against the run, and really all season. I mean, Penn State ran it pretty well on them. I mean, they ran it really, really well on them, I should say. Like Nick Singleton got 15 carries, 84 yards, 3 touchdowns. Katron Allen, 19 carries, 82 yards. But Texas was able to kind of limit the run game. I mean, obviously the big screen pass right before halftime was a big play for Travion Henderson, but or maybe it's because I expected more from Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, and maybe I expected too much from them.
Yeah.
Notre Dame defensively, number 5 in EPA against the run and number 53 in success rate against the run. So there's certainly opportunity there. Big for that defense, missing Riley Mills in the defensive line. That's going to be a huge loss. If Ohio State can get the run game going, that'll help take the pressure off Will Howard, and that's part of the reason why he played poorly against Texas. Or I'd say poorly, but
didn't have his best game.
24 of 33, 289 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. If he's got to throw the ball 30 times, it's going to be a tight game, I think. I mean, and I want to talk about both of these quarterbacks. Like you said, about Riley Leonard, he doesn't really strike fear. I don't really think Will Howard does either. I think Will Howard just has the best supporting cast in the country. I mean, the 3 receivers, the 2 running backs, great offensive line, and that hasn't really skipped a beat with all the injuries, like you already mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Just there's more talent around him, and that's why I think he really needs that run game to help him settle in, and maybe the game won't be on his shoulders if they can take shots and hit shots that they set up with the run game, like they've done most of the year. I think that's what both of these teams just kind of have to do what they do to win this game. I think it's for both teams, they're going to want to do what they normally do. I think it's a good matchup against the other side.
Yeah.
Partially due to the injuries, mainly Riley Mills for Notre Dame. I think that's why it's an advantage for Ohio State. But you look on the flip side at Notre Dame, I think what they do offensively and even defense, it's so hard to pick this game because, like I said, these are the two best teams right now. Notre Dame's secondary is great. I think they can limit the receivers.
And that's without a top 15 pick in Benjamin Morrison in that group too. Like they've got depth. They're pretty good.
Yeah, that's true. So I think Ohio State wins this game because of the opportunities in the run game. Get Travion Henderson, get Quinshon Judkins going early, take that pressure off Will Howard, and try to hit some deep shots. That's going to be tough against I had their names. Of course, lost them. The Notre Dame safety, Schuler. Aaron Schuler? Is that his first name?
I think
butchering it? Probably butchering it. And Xavier Watts. I know it's Xavier
Watts is good. Well, and I'll add this to it. I went back and watched
Aiden Schuler. Sorry.
Aiden Schuler. I went back and watched the Texas Ohio State game. And I want to give credit where credit's due here. Not that they need it from me. I think you have to say, like, you being real yourself, like Texas's defensive game plan worked in that game. And they played a lot of zone. They dropped some linebackers to help out, and they bracketed Jeremiah Smith. Like, he just didn't get a lot of opportunities. And I think we're going to see, to a certain extent, Notre Dame's going to try to emulate that. And I would. Like, I think Texas did a good job. They gave themselves a chance to hang around with them with their own offensive struggles. I think they're going to try to challenge Jeremiah Smith. That's the physicality of the secondary for Notre Dame has to be really good in this game. But I think when you talk about just what Ohio State has, you say the run game, and maybe I'm cheating here. I think Ohio State wins just because it's pick your poison. Good as I think Notre Dame is defensively, I just don't know. And I think there has to be something said, Will, about the fact that every single coach in America says this, but you want your team playing the best ball at the end of the season. There's not a greater example of that than Ohio State right now. I mean, they've not just been good, Will, they have been elite. The Texas game maybe wasn't what they wanted, but they've been really, really, really dang good in these two games. And so I think, we talk about the stats. There's got to be something to the confidence and a little bit of the swagger that this team has coming into this game. I also think, and I'll put it on the other side of the football for you, this is a championship level defense with playmakers at all three levels, guys that can change the game, and a guy that I don't think gets a ton of necessarily, and I'm going to butcher his name here if I don't. I got it right here. Lathan Ransom, who's not a really big name in terms of when you think about the Ohio State defense, right? But he evaded two blockers in a sequence in that Texas game, knocked back Wisner, the running back from Texas, for a 7-yard loss, put him behind the chains, which kind of led to just a game-changing moment. And you just have guys that just step up. Yeah, everyone knows who Caleb Downs is. We know who Jack Sawyer is. We know who, and I'm not going to say his name because I'll butcher it, JT, the Edge. We know who that is. But,
Tui Molowau.
Look at that. That's why you're here. But we know that they have playmakers, but I think it's just the cohesiveness that Jim Knowles has this group playing with. So I'll cheat again. I think Ohio State wins it because there's too many weapons offensively. And I just think that they are probably, and I hate to say this because I love Notre Dame's defense. I think they're probably the best 11 players in terms of playing cohesively that we see in the country, like all year. Like, they're just right now, it just does not feel like there's a lot that gets through, that leaks through with that defense.